opinas?
Yo espero que esto sea la distancia que me acerca un poco.
Yo creo que sí, yo creo que estás bien.
Sí, pero si no se nota.
Si no es el
Tú sí ves que se oye mucho.
está bien, pero sí. Dice que te has hecho esto. El señor me está diciendo, pero sin ser
Más cerca.
Bueno, buenos días.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the new press conference of the San Sebastian International Film Festival. It's a double press conference because one hand we're going to celebrate the Donostia Award to PEDRO ALMODÓVAR this year, but we're also going to present the Room Next Door film, which is in a special viewing in the festival, and you know that it's just come from winning the Golden Lion in Venice to present the film. As you can see, we've got a significant part of the people that have participated in the film, though albeit you know who they are, and we'll open up the questions because there's a lot of people and people have already raised their hands. From the other end, we've got RAÚL ARÉVALO, actor, Victoria Luengo, actor, PEDRO ALMODÓVAR, director, TILDA SWINTON, actor, Juan Diego BOTTO, actor, and MELINA Matthews, actor. So therefore, Maria Guerra had a question. It was the first one to raise her hand. Hi, good morning, and congratulations, Pedro. Congratulations to all of you for the film, which is a magnificent film. Thank you, Maria. Congratulations, because people were crying and tears out in the street. A couple told me this out in the street after seeing the film. Could you tell us a bit about your feelings today on this rainy day in San Sebastian with the Donostia Award that you're going to receive? And then also as regards the film, at what time or what moment of serenity do you feel yourself in order to make this film about this journey towards death? First of all, I'm going to use a beautiful pen that's just been given me yesterday at the restaurant where we went. I don't remember the name of the restaurant. Thelay Chiki talking to me like that, but you heard Lola, okay. Well, this means, since I arrived yesterday, more than 24 hours, but 24 hours of just an enormous amount of emotions. The viewing of the film and the award has coincided with my birthday, so therefore I'm on the verge of crying, and at the same time I couldn't stop having tears run down my cheeks because it's being much more emotional than what I expected, and almost excessively emotional. In order to not lose control. This makes me reflect upon many things, amongst others, that the first time I was here in San Sebastian with a film was exactly 44 years ago with Pepe Lucy Bon, which was a very defective film, but it was the beginning. And when a film has a couple of defects, well, everyone sort of criticizes those two defects, but Pepe was so defective per se, so therefore the defects became set a style, and that's what I was like way back when. Very straightforward, and it was a journey, Pepe Lucibon, and then later with other films full of emotion. So therefore, when I arrived at the hotel yesterday, I realized that in these 44 years, things had changed enormously in general in the world and in my life. But however, this city continued to provoke emotions, very deep emotions in me, and in this case now, 44 years later, of a different nature to the emotions of 1980. That day I remember we went to the coup, we ended up at the beach at 8 o'clock in the morning. I remember all of that. I was reflecting upon this at 12 o'clock at night yesterday at the hotel. But I'm very, very excited. And I'm at a moment in my life, I think at a moment not relaxed or calm, shall we say, because I don't know that. I don't know what relax means, really. I work through excitement, the truth be said. But last night, I was so excited that I couldn't even control myself. My head was very fresh in my mind, but what I needed to do was to go in depth and think about what happened to me through the day. I didn't think it was the best thing because I had to have my head together to be in front of you and answer your questions. But 44 years have gone by, as I've said. But the most important thing that I remember of these 44 years is one of your colleagues asked me the other day, did you question your talent at any time? And I said, that wasn't the issue, because I never thought about my talent. What I thought about is that I have this vocation which is much more powerful than myself. And if I don't manage, and my vocation was to make films, if I don't manage to make films, I'll be the saddest person in the universe. I wasn't at the right place. I didn't have a cent. I didn't have any friends. But that was my vocation. It was clear in my mind. So therefore, the best of these last 44 years is that I've had a trajectory, and that I've had a trajectory of 23 films, some better than others, but all of them are mine. They all belong to me, the best and the ones that I like the less. But I think this is a privilege that unfortunately not all directors can say. Far be it from me to criticize directors that have to work in an industry with films being commissioned, and there's a lot of work and there are a lot of platforms and there's an enormous amount of offer of films. But quite fortunately, Agustín had the idea of creating El Deseo, so that the desire for us to be autonomous and independent and to be, the truth is, owners of what we did, but not owners from a monetary standpoint, but owners of any distributor to sell a certain film. And on many occasions, it wasn't the distributor that gave us the most money. It was sometimes the distributor that gave less money, but had the greatest sensitivity vis-a-vis the film in question. To be the owner and to make all of the decisions to have a film of this nature, I owe this to Agustín and El Deseo, the production company, and it's another reason to celebrate these 40-odd years. So therefore, I felt more relaxed now. Obviously, the issues that I address have changed, obviously. It's also obvious that I'm not 25 years old anymore. You know this. Unfortunately, I can't hide my age at this stage of the game. But I've made quite a lot of films, and I've changed quite naturally. I have changed almost organically as regards to the films that I made, and also as regards life. The life I've gone through 48 years ago. Last night, as Olga Dijot would say, if I'd have stayed at the hotel, it would have been in conditions which are very different to last night. Probably I would not have turned up to the hotel, but just for breakfast and get prepared to be in front of you. But my life has changed enormously since then. But also, and it's a natural and biological sense, there was a moment where I had to make a decision. It sounds very harsh to say this, but emotions, strong emotions, powerful emotions, or discipline. The discipline of a job that consists on being alone at home and writing at home on your own, and quite a lot of time being very surrounded by all of the cast and crew in order to make a film. So this was the habitat of the 1990s, but as of that moment, I decided that was only coherent with my vacation, was to continue to write and continue to making films. And at the beginning, I said, but to give in to these strong emotions is something almost anti-natural, because those emotions are those that nourish you, and slowly but surely, and this is called maturity. I've discovered that emotions are also lie in certain routines and they're the ones that I started to talk about in my latest films, where I've changed, though I continue to be the same person. But I use my days in different things nowadays. Thank you very much, Maria, for your question. There's a question here, Pepa. Hi. Pepa Lanes from Cadena said, hi, congratulations to everyone. I wanted to ask you, because you were talking about your 44 years of your career since you arrived here for the first time. There's something that causes an impact in the Reina Sofia in Venice, everything about my mother, and here everyone follows you is a new generation, the young people that have discovered your films now. I'm not too sure, what do you think that connects of your films and you as an artist with that young generation and that everyone wants to connect with, and you've already connected with them, and the rest of the actors? I would like to ask you, what was it like to accompany Pedro in this such a special film, which is in English, where perhaps it's a completely different adventure that he had made before in his cinema. I'm going to try to be brief so that they can talk. For me, it's a surprise. It's an enormous surprise, and incredibly praise. It's an enormous praise. In Madrid, there's an exhibition which is the hot ticket of the summer. How do you say hot ticket in Spanish? Hot ticket. Yes, thank you. It's an exhibition that is being, well, it's full, this museum, and it talks about my relationship with Madrid. And they've had the idea of making a cycle about my films. Agustín went to present some of the films. They don't announce when someone's going to present them. And I went the other day to present Entre Tinieblas. And the cinema, the movie theater, was absolutely full, and the audience was absolutely cross-sectional and mostly young people. And it surprises me because many of the people that were there had not been born when I did everything about my mother, not even, and let alone those of the 1980s. So I want to thank the platforms, and that's a positive aspect, that through platforms it's been able to connect and people have been able to see my films. Not everyone's had the opportunity to do retrospectives and to see it in a normal site, that is to say in a big screen. However, but it surprises me enormously, or when I film the scripts when they're published, that the audience, there's a set audience which is LGBTI, which is very faithful and very loyal, but there are women, ladies, there are a lot of young people that have got nothing to do with it, or that at least have got other options in their lives, and to which they've felt the same emotion to those people who lived in the 1980s. So I want to believe that what we tell, passing of time with cinema is very cruel. If we look about some of the masterworks of the past, and now we discover that they're not works of art or masterworks, but time has enriched me. It's enriched the stories that I used to tell, so therefore I feel very fortunate. I think it's time for them to talk now. Tilda, what do you think about anything, Tilda?
The question is, what do I think about you, Pedro? I'm very happy to talk about Pedro, all about Pedro. The question of why there is a whole new generation, there are many, many more coming, who are looking for Pedro and find him and he nourishes them, is a really good one, because I think I'm sitting here beside him thinking what a magical blessing in my life it is to have found him. I have known him less long than other people at this table, less long than many of you in this room, but he's already an absolutely central part of my life, not only to do with the my daily life, but also he's such an endorsement of everything that made me a filmmaker in the first place. A little bit after you, 1985 was the first time I made a film with Derek Jarman in London. And ever since then, I've been looking at Pedro over the water in Madrid, recognizing this kinship, recognizing this fellow, what I would call pirate. He's a pirate, and I'm a pirate, and there are some of us, many of us in the audience, who want pirate cinema, not piracy, A pirate. What is the word?
Piratas.
You know,
was
we're
just-
talking about self-determination, absolute purity of vision, vocation, as he says. And also, frankly, I've only had the privilege so far to make 2 films with him. Both of them have felt like his first film. He's like a young filmmaker. He makes a film with all the gusto and passion and makes his mind up at the last minute about changing something. He's present in a way that I think very many filmmakers get encouraged to give up that aspect of their life and of their filmmaking. And we, audience, we want that. We want that feeling of presence in a filmmaker. So when a young audience, and there are many more coming along the road who are yet to be born, what they will find in Pedro's cinema, 23 of his films so far, is this young spirit, this absolute dauntless passion and desire and belief in cinema as a source of nourishment. He's not remotely jaded. He's not a professional, I could say, and I say that because I also would call myself an amateur, and I hold the name amateur, you know, as a badge of honor. He has that amateur status. He's a real lover of cinema, and that's what the audience wants, particularly a young audience. So, you know, Pedro forever, frankly.
Thank you so much, Tilda.
Pedro, question from Brazil. Perdão por mi portuñol salvaje de Rio de Janeiro.
Excuse my savage Portuñol from Gaetano Veloso defines your cinema as an almodrama. And some of the people call it a mapped melodrama. What's new in these melodramatic narratives and these experiences, and why use English? Go into English now in this incredible The Room Next Door. What's the question? What has changed in your structure with melodramas in this sense? And then doing it in English. It's changed because life is movement, isn't it? And so, and plus, I must say, like any human being, I'm subject to biological changes. But not only that, but the fact that I try to not repeating myself is to get away from boredom, for example, and to recognize that the nature of a film is an adventure, uncertainty. So therefore, for example, not in this one because it's in English, but 22, the last one wasn't in English. I've never got the feeling that this film, I know how to make it. What I've got the conviction is I'm starting a new adventure, and it's not a rhetoric. It's not just a way of talking, but a film is getting into a safari almost. And what I do know is that I'm prepared to risk my life necessary in that adventure, but it's impossible for me to foresee the dangers that I will have to overcome. So therefore, in each film is different, and each film brings about a different problem that one has to resolve. And I say I've gone through different stages in my life. Quite fortunately, I've had a young. When I was I've done a lot when I was a young director. I've let myself go enormously. I'm not making an ellipsis now when there's an erotic scene, but I've filmed a lot of erotic scenes, and it was a moment when it was important to do so because that scene was telling something in the storyline. But now, if it's necessary, I'll do it again. But in the stories that I'm telling now, it's not that indispensable to show the fact that two people are making love. When I have a script that it's necessary, I will do so. But I think that there's enormous temptation in someone who's been quite baroque like me, and telling very extreme stories in most cases, is to containment that it seems should be something negative. All the contrary, as a style, for me, it means purifying. And since Julieta, I have started along that path, in which there were much less songs, the song was less baroque, there were less characters. And I, because it's not in my nature, containment is not my nature, I had to impose it upon myself as a narrator. So therefore, I'm still in that style now. I've tried to, The Room Next Door, to talk about a woman who's agonizing in an agonizing world. And it's an issue which is a serious, and almost funeral-like. I tried to do it in a completely different way, but the subject matter per se could bring you close to dangerously, it can bring you to sentimentalism and melodrama. And I didn't want to fall into anything sentimental. And I insisted in Julianne Moore so that she could even be not nice and say, don't talk like a ghost, you're not dead yet. She could even show her bad humor with the patient. So in this containment, I wanted to not fall into any sort of melodrama. So therefore, this means changes that you decide according to the story and also according to things that you've already done and you don't want to repeat. There's a question by Conchita here. Hi to all of you. Pedro, congratulations for everything. I would like to ask you, what's the trick that Pedro Almodóvar has to keep up to date and being a classical? You're still the most modern, you're still up to date. What's your trick there? What do you do? Thank you. Well, thank you. Well, the truth is, the simplest thing, I think, and the easiest thing, what takes less effort is to be spontaneous. Spontaneity, a thing that in the world, or at least this is used very much, political correctness is something which is in danger. Just to be spontaneous and to say what you think, act the way you think, and if someone is offended, well, someone's offended, and that's it. So therefore, from the outset, I have been, from the beginning, better said, well, I knew quite well when I was making Pussy, Lucibon, or Entre Tinieblas, they weren't the films that Spain was expecting. First of all, films about nuns never worked. And someone told me that, and I said, it's true, they never worked. Well, apart from Black Narcissus, which is a film, one of my favorite films of Tilda's and mine, and Black Narcissus, I think he said, there's a tribute when she's, very, very determinedly, she paints her lips. And it's a challenge to death. And it's a take which was inspired by the marvelous film by Michael Powell. So I've tried to be always as spontaneous as possible. And the good thing about this is that naturality, that way of being natural is what worked the best in the market. So therefore, there was no reason for me to change things. And then the rest is a mystery. But I say the conceiving a story is absolute mystery. I never know, and I've got several that are written, but that spark that brings about that you conceive something and you continue to make it it's a mysterious process. I'm fascinated by creation, but it continues to be a mystery for me. The only thing I can do is to feel glad. I'm not too sure that I've become a classical director, but it's true that the younger people, an audience, have absolutely other references, undoubtedly, because that audience that comes, I don't even know who that audience is. I don't know what they're like. I don't know the Generation X at all. I don't know the TikTokers who are, I don't even know. No, I don't even know who influencers are. So therefore, I would like to make a film about those generations. But the truth is, I would have to start to do some research because I haven't got any contact with them. But, however, I'm very happy that they are they find or have sufficient sensitivity so that my films continue to interest them. It's a surprise, and it's very mysterious that people like your films and the fact that people don't like your film. I've never understood this when one thing or the other happens. So therefore, in the Flor de mi Secreto, the flower of my secret, I wanted to give the film another title, and I said to my brother, it talks about feminine solitude in La Mancha, and like a cow without a bell. That's exactly what it means. That was the title, and I said to Agustín, I don't know what to give that title, a cow without a bell. No, I'm becoming too local. This only happens here in these few square kilometers, which is my town. I didn't use it. I found another title, which was beautiful, which is The Flower of My Secret. But when the film was shown in New York, it was one of the phrases that was most celebrated and that best was understood by the people in New York, which means, and what I mean by this is that to try to be yourself is the best thing you can do. And if you're very bad, that's also good, because you know where things are coming from, and therefore you protect yourself so you don't get hurt. Paula, there's a question here. Hi, let's see. Paula, for Caiga Quien Caiga, congratulations to all of you for the film, and congratulations to you, Pedro, for the Donostia award that you're going to receive. You deserve it, but we also believe you deserve the gold shell. So in Caiga Quien Caiga, we made a gold shell to give it to you. Well, you know, gold, not a real gold. Can I give it to you before I ask the question? Whenever you want. Well, allow me. You can ask the question while you give it to him, Marcel. Bye, and I'll see you on the red carpet. I got something else for, well, I wonder what it is. Pedro, don't move it because we ran out of paint on the back. That's the golden shell. Thank you very much. Well, here we are. Let's do precarity. Pedro Almodóvar receives a marvelous gold shell. The question is, if at any time in any hotel you've been, the room next door, someone's complaining about you making too much noise in your room at a hotel at any stage. No. Let's see. That's never happened to me. Or I didn't have enough drugs, or I didn't have enough alcohol to make so much noise, so that the room next door was complaining. But that's more American, shall we say. I'm trying to get to know some Spanish examples of this, but we're a bit more discreet, I think. And I think the night that you go right over the top, there are so many places to go and to enjoy it. And plus, there's a beach here, for example. That the room, I think we use the room less than what Leonardo DiCaprio uses it, for example, to hold a party and break all the furniture. I don't know. Gregorio, did you raise your hand? Gregorio Belinchon, yes. Congratulations, Pedro, for the film. And secondly is, I'm at the back here, Pedro. I'm going to stand up. I can't get up because I've got the computer. But John Turturro reflects upon what, in the film, what we've lived and we've still got to live. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's part of your own discourse. That's the character. That's it. Turturro is you. And Pedro Sanchez is coming along this afternoon to the award. What are you going to say to Pedro Sanchez? Because he's the president of the country. Do you think it's a time to remind him, Pedro Sanchez, for example, of what's happening and what they're not correcting? Well, I know our president, and I know he's coming this evening, so I want to thank him very much. I say we've got to understand it as a support to culture, because not always such is the case. There's my exhibition, which is in the town council, but the mayor has not gone to see it yet. What's this about? He's not going to visit my exhibition. These are things that happen, but I must say, the exhibition was Manuela Carmela's idea, so therefore we weren't able to finish it when she was the mayor, and now it's up to these guys who are in power now. And they've got a great success that has come along as an exhibition, and they've not done anything about it. So therefore, I think I have a speech prepared to thank the award, to acknowledge the award, and I've got a man, apart from being our president, in Europe and the US, they call him Mr. Handsome. And I'm sure you understand, Mr. Handsome, Mr. Good-looking guy. So therefore, there are many things to ask him and to tell a man of this characteristics at a political level and also at a physical level. So, for me, I must say, whether I become a pain in the neck or half a filmmaker, so a lot of possibilities are offered to me to talk to him, from dancing a cabaret, and I was a very cabaret person when I was young, or to decide upon something more serious, like the problems that John Turturro names, Gregorio, and the truth is, I use the voice of John Turturro because at this present moment they're about to go through elections. It's very illustrative of what's happening in the United States. He says, I've lost my faith in human beings. It's very tough to say that, Pedro. You're right to say this, because when he says that the worst thing that can happen to a society is the ultra-right wing finds against the most savage liberalism. If these two elements, as is happening now, go hand in hand, the only thing we can think about is that they're going to make the worst decisions for all of us, because the problem in the US is not only how it's going to affect them, it's going to affect us. I'd love to vote in those elections as well, and in Europe in general. So therefore, it's a problem which is palpitating almost. And we need to continue to debate and discuss from the moment and where there is still a rampant extreme right wing, which is still negationist. So therefore, it's very difficult for me when I think about the ultra-right wing and how it's getting so large throughout the world. I think they're ultra-Catholic, or at least the ones that we know in Spain. But I ask myself, and it also has to do with this film, I'm an atheist, but I've learned the Ten Commandments because I was poorly educated by one is to help thy neighbor, one of the Ten Commandments. So therefore, these people, this ultra-right wing and liberalism, do they think about their children or their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren? Not at all. The world they're going to leave them when they... And also to thinking about someone that has less blood relationships. But I think this film talks about something that I've heard more than once today, not today, but yesterday, which is the word empathy. Quite curiously, I have a speech written for this evening. Probably there's a couple of things that I have to change, because I've discovered there are several films that talk about death. This San Sebastian Film Festival, I think, could go into history as a festival where quite often and very sincerely the value of empathy was repeated, the value of accompanying someone when that person needs it, because that's the best thing we can do quite often. And mortality as well, something that we all understand because all of us are condemned to it. And it's a discussion that should continue to be enforced, because Spain has a law on euthanasia, but it's the fourth country. And it's a discussion that obviously is well, Costa Gavra says it goes against, and it's confronting, it's religions. The individual is the only person who's the owner of his or her life, should continue to be the owner of his or her death as an act of vitality, or as happens with Tilda Swinton's character in the film. So therefore, there are many things that I don't understand, and they are amongst those messages that I want to convey in the film, and that is, not only talking about climate change, but even climate change is going to affect other countries much more than us and other generations. So Africa, because of its geographical circumstances, much earlier than Europe, is going to feel it's going to be much more difficult to live in Africa. So therefore, thinking about the fact that we're in a country where a political party, it occurs to a political party that the best way to fight against immigration is to send the army and try to treat them as invaders to these young kids that are unaccompanied, or anyone. It's barbarous. The truth is, it's something deeply stupid, because a young kid invading Spain makes no sense at all. So it's enormously unfair and unjust. My film talks about opening your arms and accompanying, and that's the message that we can apply. And plus, like everything, it's going to benefit us all. Julianne starts. She's very doubtful, she's very fearful in her character, she's not sure whether she's doing the right thing or not, but her friend asks her to do it. She's an adventurer as well, and the fact, generosity, the first thing, generosity comes back to you. For example, when in Spain we're talking about a country which is empty in many provinces, a lot of small villages, a country that needs a lot of labor, just like part of Europe. So therefore, immigrants should not only, they should be welcomed, and that would make our country, just like me, we get old.
We are very old in this country. Older than the other generation. Somos una generación.
We are a generation. The average age, I say it in English, but the percentage of the average age, I don't know what it is, but it's a society, as we know, is getting older and older. We need blood, new blood. It would rejuvenate Spain. And plus, there are several problems that would be solved at the same time. All of this is in the film. I hope that you can see it, those of you who have not seen it yet. But I've never... Well, Madres Paralelas, I wanted to treat this issue, but films are political without being so. Pepe Lucy Bon was a political film, and I started from the inexistence of Franco. Pepe Lucy Bon, like Labyrinth of Passions, for example, I didn't recognize Franco, not even the shadow of a memory of him. It was my personal revenge on that dictatorship. That didn't mean I lost my memory, and I recovered, and I also have it at that time. But what I was saying, that even Pepe Lucy Bon or Labyrinth of Passions, which are filmed, that completely hedonistic pop films, they had a message which is implicit, and my films, all of them have it, and the message is freedom. As an author, to entertain people, I'm not talking about happy families or people that don't have families. No, I have to create problems to and extreme situations, so on and so forth, so that we can do, otherwise it would be boring to watch one of my films. Plus, I don't believe in happy couples or happy families or anything of the kind. But what I have been able, I've brought up, my characters have always had a lot of complications, but as an author, and it was always in my hand, I've given them absolute moral autonomy to all of my characters, not bothering about the social status or wherever they came from. So I wanted my characters to always be as free as I was when I wrote them. One final question, Nerea, you've been waiting? Hi, thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, everyone. Aneta Perez of Movie Star Plus. I want to ask you another question, but you said something that interested a lot. You don't believe in happy families. You don't believe in happy romance or couples. No, what I mean is there are moments, there are of happiness. I myself have felt them, but happiness is furtive, it's ephemeral, and above all, a family and a story a woman and a man who are getting along really well. And from the morning, what are you going to tell about these two if they're happy? What's the storyline? So this film isn't about a happy friendship. This film is about a very happy friendship. Do you believe in eternal happy friendships and that accompany you through the end? Because this woman asks a friend to accompany her. Yes, it talks about a friendship. And yes, and the friendship, one should feel happy if one has a friend. But it's a friendship that is recovered after several years in a situation, an extreme situation of one of the characters. And that's what changes. And that's the story that I tell. So therefore, if it were a friendship of two girls that haven't seen each other for years and they have a coffee, apart from getting up to date on their lives, there's very little to tell. But in this case, one of them is condemned to die. And it proposes to the other one to help her in those last few weeks, to accompany her. So there's a story to tell here about death. There's a story about to reflect upon, apart from, as well as friendship. And friendship is a protagonist in the film, because I think in certain occasions it's the best of the feelings that we human beings have. I think it's even superior to that of love and fraternity, because it doesn't have the problems that a love relationship has. Despite the fact that friendship, conceived as it's conceived in this film, goes beyond those other feelings, goes through those feelings. It's a friendship in which, at the end, almost two of them have become the same person. There's a transfer of Tilda's character to Julianne Moore's character that has started, that happened over those weeks that they're together. That's why Julianne in the last scenes with a fundamentalist police woman who's like a noir film. She's a wall of cement, and that's strength. She's inherited it from Tilda's character. So therefore, yes, the friendship. Yes, we've got to celebrate the friendship of the two characters, but they have a very good problem, and that's where I go. I get involved as a narrator. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all of you for being here at the press conference.